Yeah, I'll share it to the Limitless group. There's 28,000 roofers in there.
All right, well, we are live. What's going on, everyone? I'm Chris Baker.
And I'm Ty Backer.
Welcome to episode 175 of Behind the ToolBelt, TC Backer Construction.
TC Backer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. TC Backer, TC Backer.
Behind the Tool Belt is sponsored by Lead Scout. Find out more at leadscoutapp.com.
Roofers, you want at least 5 solid lead gen tactics building chemistry. Let's say you have door knocking, referral systems, job site branding, and you add in aggressive SEO, paid ads, and boom! Smells like more leads. hookagency.com.
TC Backer, TC Backer.
Boom. What's up, TC Backer family? Hopefully everyone's enjoying this fine Wednesday. Feels more like March here in central Pennsylvania. It's a little chilly out. We got all the early warm weather out in April. But yeah, hopefully everyone's enjoying themselves. How are you doing, Ty?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. Pretty good.
Good shit. Enjoying this weather?
I mean, it could be better, but you know, it's not too toasty out yet. We're going to be wishing for this exact weather in about a month and a half.
Exactly. So. It's a lot rainy, but that's a good thing too. It can be in the roofing industry.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm ready for spring or summer, or whatever's going to come, probably right into summer. I'm more of a summer person, warm weather, especially now with all the traveling that we've done. It makes it real super hard to come home.
Yeah, I believe it.
But you know, I love Pennsylvania, the great state of
Hell yeah.
Pennsylvania and
Kentucky.
And all my family and friends and mentors and coaches and all that good shit. Well, I shouldn't say all of them are here, but them, coaches and mentors, but friends, family, business, all that good stuff's here. So I love Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got a special guest here today. Dylan McCabe. Just want to throw that out there. It is McCabe.
Nailed it.
For anyone that was wondering out there in Facebook land.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm not talking to someone specifically right now, but I'm not gonna out him right now.
Yeah. Well, I drew a blank. I did my 2-minute live on the way here, and just to get out of the way, because last night I didn't do it till about 10:15 and worked out real late. Just had friends, family over. My father-in-law actually celebrated, and I'm sure he's probably okay with me throwing him under the bus like this, but he celebrated a 40-year anniversary yesterday.
Oh yeah.
And some of you know what that means.
Yeah.
And so his sister and brother-in-law came over. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law came over with their kids, and Rocket, Mackenzie, and Skylar were there. So they were there kind of late, and I didn't want to be rude.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, I got to go work out and do a 2-minute live.
Right.
You know, because it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Right. That's almost as old as I am.
Yeah.
Right. That he's been around kicking it.
Yeah.
And so that's big shout out to him. And some of us actually get the pleasure of listening to his story Saturday night, along with my nephew, Zach. So those of you that know what I'm talking about and you're picking up what I'm putting down, make sure your ass is up at the Dover group.
Yeah.
7 p.m. Saturday night, and get to listen to 2 great speakers.
Yeah, dude, that's big time, man. Imagine, like, just think about all the life events that can happen in 40 years to keep that strong.
Mm.
You know, not just like personal, but like environmentally, like in the community, the world, like all the different things that have gone on in 40 years, man. That's a long time. So kudos to you, man.
Yeah, for sure. So Dylan, what's happening, brother? How's it? Where are you coming from?
We're in Big D, man, Dallas, Texas.
Oh, nice. I knew that. I actually did know that. You did tell me that last week. So I had the honor and the pleasure of meeting Dylan at IRE, and then more recently at Revolt Retreat. And it was good to see you down there. Actually, Chris Hofstra wanted me to tell you to say hi if I did run into you. So Chris says hi. Never a day late, but you know, hi. And talked to him again today. And I did let him know I did speak with you. But he's a big fan of what you guys are doing over there too, the guys over at Lead Scout. And most recently though, I guess, where should we start with this? I guess you want to talk about like what Limitless is, and then maybe we can start digging into what it was like and what it's like now and how you got here. But let's start out with like, what is Limitless?
Sure. Yeah. Limitless is a buying group. The technical term is a group purchasing organization. And so the whole goal is just bring as many roofing owners together as we can. There's strength in numbers. We're much stronger together. And then we go to suppliers and vendors and basically come as like one big customer and say, hey, if we work with you and form a loyal relationship with you, what kind of deal can we get? What kind of long-term partnership can we form? And so the mission of the group is just to make all of our members more profitable. And we do that by reducing their cost of business. So if we can save you money on all the things that you're spending money on as a group, the buying power of the group, and you maintain your sales margins, then that money just goes straight from your overhead to your net profit. So we also have a community and a mastermind meeting every month and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the main thing, man, is I saw a big need when I got into the roofing industry 3 years ago. I was like, where are the buying groups in roofing? And everybody's like, what are you talking about? And that's how it all started.
Okay, cool. So can anybody sign up for this, or is there a vetting process that somebody would have to go through before they can become a part of the group? Is there something that you're searching in a company that fits your profile?
You and Chris have to approve first, and if you guys approve of them, then we'll talk to them. No,
Okay.
yeah, our target audience is really like the 70% of roofing owners, the small to medium sized guys that want to grow. They're growth minded, they're learners, they're humble. Occasionally I'll get a guy on a sales call that's just can't stop telling me about how smart he is and how different he is from every other roofing contractor, and how, I'm just like halfway through the call, I'm just like, man, you're not a fit.
Red
like
flags.
there's no chest pounding allowed. Like nobody's here to impress anyone. We're here to learn from one another and grow together and have leverage together. So those guys that are kind of 1 million to 15 million ish a year in revenue, that's kind of our target audience. If they're really big, 20, 30, 40 million a year, you're almost your own buying group at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what I was kind of thinking, but it would definitely benefit somebody that, like you said, in that range of the 1 to the 15 million, and even, I think even in the 20 to 25 range, you never know with the horsepower that you guys might be able to bring any size company. Really, I guess it based upon how many people are signed up with you and the buying power that you can generate. I mean, because we know that firsthand that we probably get prices a little bit better than most people, but we've earned it. It's something that you got to earn, just like you're going through right now. You got to earn that respect or that buying power of having that manpower and the volume. It really comes down to volume. And I know companies like GAF and Certainty, they know that game well. I mean, they deal with a lot of national builders, so they have certain programs out there for people. But what I find unique about this, that you don't really hear a lot about this in the roofing industry. So I feel like you're tapping in something that's been in probably other industries for a lot longer. And with a lot of things in the roofing industry, it seems like we're a decade behind, whether it be technology, whether it be acquisitions and mergers and all of these things. And here you found your niche, which I think is very unique.
Absolutely.
And very cool, which could definitely help somebody that's been in business for a couple years. that's just trying to find their way and get a better discount and find that edge against their competitor.
Yeah, for sure, man. I like it because I feel like, you were saying like the 1 to 15 range. I feel like that's probably right around the area where you can start to plateau and really, really find it hard to scale your business anymore. Because we've found, we want to scale, but it's like the more work you get, the more you spend, the more, and you're just spending more money at that point in time. So like there has to be, like you said, we've learned to, do our thing and do our part and use our buying power and stuff. And that's definitely helped us on some of these plateau effects. But, I like how you target those smaller guys, but at the same time, Ty, I do agree with you that, as long as everyone's in it for the right reason, maybe a 25 to 40 million company, as long as they're not coming in there trying to throw their weight around and say, listen to what I have to say, you know what I mean? Like you said, with, people, I'm so smart, listen to me. It could definitely be beneficial, because at the end of the day, I think you're just looking for, a ton of work to be done to throw your leverage that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. I mean,
It's true. We actually, one of our members is doing about 20 million a year in revenue, and we were able to get him a better deal,
Right.
and save him even more, because it's just, it's just strength in numbers.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's cool. Cool. That's one of those big, put your ego to the side and like work together. That's kind of what everyone, at least the majority of the people we have on the show, man, everyone's kind of going towards that common goal.
Yeah, for sure. And, and I like that, you're, you align with the Revolt group. So tell us a little bit about like how that partnership came about, and what does that mean for those people that are involved with that partnership?
Yeah, for sure. So the way the Revolt thing came about, and the roofing.com partnership, is Hunter just reached out. I got to know Hunter actually when we launched Limitless almost 3 years ago. It started as a CEO group. I called it a peer advisory group. It's more of a white collar phrase, and then realized that phrase just doesn't get used in roofing. So then we changed the name to Mastermind. It's the same thing. It's just owners getting together, sharing best practices, sharing challenges with one another. So we started the podcast too, Limitless Roofing Show, and which props to you guys and your consistency, because I've been very inconsistent with my podcast, just terrible. But Hunter was one of the first guys we interviewed, and I love leadership. I got a degree in organizational leadership. I love learning about it, just constantly feed off learning. And I interviewed Hunter, and I was just so struck by how young he was, but how entrepreneurial and just a really a great leader he was. A true servant leader. I mean, he's just put so much energy into helping other people. And so we just kind of stayed in touch, and then went to RoofCon, and then he invited me to be in the leadership panel at RoofCon. And so we got to talk more, and then he reached out and said, hey, we've got this roofing.com offering, and think that we could make Limitless a big part of that, and include that in the value stack to all of our roofing.com partners. And I was like, man, let's talk further. So jumped on a short video call, and that was it, man.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's good. And I think that's not that my opinion really matters, but I feel like it's a good fit, a good partnership there. Hunter is definitely a servant leader. I've seen him definitely put himself aside to reach out and help other people. And I feel like, leadership is a great topic, and we can talk about that all night long. And honestly, I don't care if that's the direction that this conversation goes, because we're real big fans of good leadership and passing on what has been so freely given to us, right? Whether it be education, empathy, sympathy, encouragement, and embracing, coaching, mentoring, parenting, right? Like, you can't forget about throwing the parenting part of it in there. And Ippy actually posted, or we were talking about something yesterday, about actually, no, it was something he was reading. He shared with me in a book that he's reading right now. And, parenting has a lot to do with that. And that's where it kind of bleeds into, happy home life equals happy work life. Right. And as an entrepreneur, that's one of our goals that we set out to do, was to make sure that, the home life really mattered in the workplace for us, and you can be born with like certain traits, to be a leader, but there's a lot of, respect and trials and errors and tribulations and fights and things that you have to go through, I think, to endure the stand of time, because let's face it, there are people who lead and then there are leaders, right? And I've been on both ends of that spectrum. And, of course, leaders have people that follow them, but I don't like that terminology necessarily, because I prefer those people to be either beside me or in front of me. Right. And at this point in time, I feel like most of the time that you guys are leading me, so we can go, but that was the goal. The goal was to teach everybody how to think, not what to think, especially when I'm not around. And that was probably one of the bigger challenges of letting go my ego and my pride, because no, I'm the one that's in control here. I'm the one that fucking built this. Right. But that's not the case. That's not true whatsoever. And I feel like when I really started to work on me, right, and internally, not the external stuff, but more so of an internal working on me, trying to get healthy, educating myself fluidly, those things like that, and keeping an open mind and remaining teachable, because let's face it, a leader is only as good as he's willing to continue to keep learning. Right. If that makes any sense. But that's kind of like my 2 cents on the leadership opener topic here.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. I love what you said about teach people how to think, not what to think. I'm going to have to repeat that.
Yeah. And that's really what it comes down to, because I used to get so irritated with people would knock on my door. Right. Like, well, but I created that animal. That
if beast. I wasn't here, what would you do right now? Yeah.
Right. And that started to occur to me, like when the pain's great enough, I'll get off my dead butt and do something about it. And that was one of those learning curves for me, that jumping off point where it was like, if I don't want them to knock on my door every 2.3 seconds and ask me a question that they know the answer to, right? Like, I need to encourage that. Like, no, you got this. And this is the other thing too. They have to make mistakes. People have to make mistakes. We all have to make mistakes, right, wrong, and different. Some people might get upset, whatever, but we have to make mistakes as integrators, as visionaries, as entrepreneurs, as leaders, as managers, as whatever, as parents. We have to make mistakes in order for us to learn. And I think as long as we keep an open mind and can own that shit, because a lot of times what happens is when mistakes are being made, a lot of times people don't want to own that stuff either. But if you have a culture where like people aren't going to be scolded because they make a mistake, I think a lot of that starts to dissipate, right? Like, because no one's trying to cover up their tracks or try to hide when you make it an atmosphere where it's kind of easy to reach out for help. Like, hey, I'm struggling here, whether it be at home, whether it be here at work, I'm falling behind, and not putting like those types of restrictions and fear, I guess, in the people, because the whip's constantly being cracked, right? Like, if there is an issue and like, let's say we know somebody's a high performing person, but like their sales are down, right? And I think the old traditional way was to sit them down, or even go to the extreme of belittling them in front of their coworkers, right?
Like a sales meeting or something.
In a sales meeting. But even if I think the old mentality is like, if you don't get your numbers up, I can't tell you what's going to happen to you. Or more so, pull them into your office and say, hey, what's up? What's going on? Are you okay? I'm worried about you. Right. And I'm still working on that too. Right. Like we all are. But if we can do that, but I think for the majority of it, and I keep going back to our team, I feel like there's been a lot of growth for all of us to even watch you grow, watch myself grow. You tell me like, hey, Ty, you handled that really well. And I just had one of those moments, and not to take the show hostage, but David Summerly posted something that I had my first hater. So I was like, funny. That's funny. But to be honest, to get to one of the points is I got more followers out of that one post. I swear to Christ. The drama is like drama sells. But anyhow, David's like, yeah, and everybody's commenting in there because it's just kind of funny. And but what happened was this person who's my hater chimed in a comment, made a comment in there in that thread, and I tested myself. And how I tested myself is don't reply back, Ty. Don't reply back.
Yeah.
Right. And whether it makes me look like a chump or whatever the case was, I tested myself to see who the stronger person was.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody, I don't think, unless you've gone through something like this, realize how much strength it takes to not reply to negativity, right? Like I didn't have the time, and I didn't see it till like a day or two later, because this guy actually blocked me.
Yeah.
He showed up in my, and I'm not talking crap, but he showed up in my DM, right? But it looked like spam to me, so I never replied. There was no introduction, there wasn't anything, and I didn't reply back fast enough, I guess, for this guy. So he has a group, and he banned us from his group.
Yeah.
And said, I don't like the host, and he had a circle around my head. Now, 3 ways I could handle this.
For sure, bro.
Right? Which and the third option is I reach out to this guy and say, hey, look, I'm sorry I didn't reach out fast enough. But I chose at this point in time not to respond, right? And this is the thing too, and I'm going to stick up for myself a little bit here. And again, I'm not going to take the show hostage, but I feel like if I don't say something, I am going to be a punk. So I'm going to say something anyhow. Listen, this is the thing, and Chris, you know this, that I can be a savage at times when it's time to be savage and savage up, right? So
I've seen it.
to be in business as long as we've been in business, there's been quite a few times where we've had to step over piles of shit.
Yeah.
All right. So basically what I'm trying to say is don't take my kindness for weakness. Yes, I'm a good dude. I have a big heart, and I will do anything to you. But unfortunately, scratch the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And then that snake, unfortunately, sometimes will veer its ugly head.
Yeah, man. And like, the thing that I keep thinking about, man, and I use this analogy, and I feel like I've been using this analogy a lot recently. The king of the jungle is a lion, right? One thing a lion doesn't do, doesn't walk around telling everyone it's a lion. You know what I mean? They don't have to say anything. You know what I mean? They're just lions.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like sometimes not replying is the lion move. You know what I mean? Because it's like, number one, what basis does anyone have any off of? You know what I mean? Obviously, if someone is making comments like that, they don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't even. And you're 100% right. I've seen major growth. I've been here. I've been in this company long enough to see pre-eye opening. You know what I mean? Back during we'll call it the old school days. You know what I mean? Before we all kind of realized, like, hey, this whole leadership thing, there's something to this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it just keeps going back to, you always say, you can make a situation as bad as you want or as good as you want. You know what I mean? And yeah, you could have gotten your 2 cents in, but like, what does that really serve?
Yeah.
What purpose does it serve?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Now I feel dumb for even saying anything at all.
No.
You know what though? What stands out to me about that is, as a leader, if you're a true leader, you have to think long term, right? And a lot of times people do things like whatever this gentleman did, and they're thinking short term. And you can't have effective leadership when you make moves in the short term that are reactionary or whatever, like this guy did. And the other thing is, it takes no wisdom, maturity, or creativity to tear somebody down.
Right.
Like, I'm a woodworker, right? I love building chairs. I like building different kinds of rocking chairs and whatever. It's just a fun thing I like to do. And so I'm drawn to master woodworkers who can make these chairs that I know they put 40 plus hours into these chairs to build. But a 10-year-old could come by with a baseball bat and in 60 seconds completely destroy that chair that took 40 hours to build.
Mm-hmm.
It takes no maturity or creativity or wisdom to tear down, but it takes immense maturity and wisdom to build up.
Yeah.
So I see that in the industry from time to time, and I think, wow, that's such a shame. You've really discredited yourself long term.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point.
And a lot of times, man, when things are happening to people and they let their emotions get the best of them and they make stupid comments and do stupid things, a lot of times it's insecurities in themselves. You know what I mean? A lot of times there's something going on with them. There's something that has happened in their past that they haven't dealt with. And that's just how they react to things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, even those people, kill them with kindness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's not in any situation, man. Very rarely. Now there is a time and a place for that shit, for sure. You know what I mean? Like you said, don't get the kindness twisted.
Yeah.
But grown-ups do grown-up things, man.
Yes, they do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We make, and it's a learning process. Perhaps it was for them and for me too.
Mm-hmm.
Through this process, and I feel better this morning that I didn't react, because
Yeah.
that's what it would have been. It wouldn't have been a response. It would have been me reacting poorly
Right.
to a situation that really didn't affect me or my family or the business or financially or anything. If it didn't matter if I replied back or not. And I liked what you said, Dylan, that it would have probably discredited me.
Yeah.
Right. If I would have showed my ass, and that's when they win too. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's because the old me, right, would have been like, oh, I look like a punk, right? And it's like I struggled with that for about 2.3 seconds.
Right.
I allowed that to bother me for really that long. And again, there's so many things, positive things in my life today. It's like we're not going to zero in on that 0.0001%
absolutely
that negativity when there's already so many 99.999% positive in my life today.
Right.
It just wasn't worth me getting all twisted.
Right. And I guarantee you, man, I've been witness to a couple moments where people let their emotions get the best of you. And I'm just going to use you as the example because I'm close to you. 100% of the time, there's always a conversation after, and it's like, I feel like a fucking idiot right now. Like I shouldn't have done that. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's growth, man. And leadership is a muscle. You got to constantly work that shit out. You don't just graduate from leader class and you're just a fucking leader the rest of your life. Like that's not how that works. It's a constant fight. It's a constant battle, and you slip up sometimes, but it's how you recover from the stumble usually.
For sure. That's a good point. So
yeah, good combo, guys.
Yeah, man, it is.
Combo.
It really is. So Dylan, when I guess you want to change gears here a little bit?
Yeah, I just kind of dipping on this, staying on topic on this, man. We're talking about leadership, and you're bringing. I would still consider an entrepreneur that has a $1 to $15 million a year operation to be a pretty successful individual. How do you bring all these people together and manage egos and manage leadership and everything? Like, how does that work? Because I can only imagine what goes through that process. Like, who gets to make decisions? Like, how does someone have to just sit on their hands and how does that all work?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So, I mean, our role as a group purchasing organization is to do the negotiations on behalf of our members, right? Like we negotiate with SRS Distribution, we negotiate with Roofers Choice Insurance, with Discount Tires, with whoever, any of these partners, we call them partners. We lead that relationship, and then the members get the benefit of that buying power of the whole group. But as far as like the masterminds in the community and the kind of people, I mean, I think it comes down to what you model. Like people, birds of a feather flock together. And I try to be a humble, loving guy. I can go into the old Dylan too and be a jerk. And I try to really quickly say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I was impatient with you and came across a little too intense. Will you forgive me for that? That's something I learned in my undergrad. We actually took a counseling course, and the whole framework that was built out was love and lack of love. Like everything boils down really to you either being loving or having a lack of love toward your fellow man. And you can do one of two things. You can either draw near to them in a loving way, or you can flee. And that looks like being defensive. It looks like physically leaving and not coming around that person. It looks like staying distracted by your TV or your phone. It looks like all kinds of things that you're just going to avoid the responsibility of having to take responsibility for those actions. So I think we attract people that are trying to be humble learners. None of us are perfect, but it's like other organizations. I see other influencers online that are different. I'm not this super intense, like pump it up kind of guy, but I'll see ads on Facebook of other guys that are, and they attract those kinds of people that are all about the hustle and the grind and and that's all fine. It's just a totally different style. Right.
Right.
So some people will be drawn to me or to Hunter or Andy Brothers or whoever. And that's cool. It's just really cool that we can all just try to serve and equip and empower others.
Isn't that the cool thing about social media right now? You have all, especially in our industry, and I can't really speak for other industries because I'm not really involved in them, but we have the ability to like see all these things and take what we want. You know what I mean? Take the things that apply to us to apply to our region. We were just talking earlier, roofing roofing is different depending on where you are in the country. You know what I mean? There's different models. There's different things that apply here that are going to apply down in Florida or Texas or something like that, or over in Cali, or hell, up in Maine. You know what I mean? They might do something a little bit different than they do down here. But we get to take the pieces that we want, and we can absorb what we want, and we can leave the other shit that doesn't apply to us behind. And I think that's really cool, just the power of information that's at our fingertips now to be able to do, and like the exponential growth that's coming in the industry with people that are buying into this and absorbing this information and leading by example.
For sure. Yeah, the industry's definitely changing. It's changed a lot in just the past 5 years, between more roofing conferences, more information online, more influencers, right, that are within the roofing industry. Because I know Jan and I talk about this a good bit, where our eyes had really opened up was several years ago, was our first Win the Storm conference. And there was a lot of people there. At least for us, it seemed like a lot of people. It was our first conference, and it had made us realize that, we're not in this alone. Right? Like, there's other roofing contractors out there. Obviously, we knew that, but like, at least being there, and we were all out of like our working environments and under one roof in a totally separate, different environment, where we felt a little more open to have conversations with who wasn't necessarily our competition, but somebody that was within our industry, and share tips, tricks, and secrets and things like that. We thought that was like, wow, this is really cool, to meet roofers from Louisiana, Nevada, Texas. I mean, from all over the country. And it was cool. And then, listening to some of the speakers that were so willing and able and capable of opening up to, their experiences too in the industry. And I feel like that's what's helped really propel our industry and the growth that it is. And I didn't see any statistics about this, but it's just something that I've heard that the roofing industry has actually become, and I'm probably going to not say this right, but has become the HVAC and plumbing had generated more revenue, right? But I'm hearing, I haven't, like I said, I didn't read anything or see it anywhere, but I've heard here more recently that the roofing industry is starting to become like the highest revenue generating industry and out of all industries right now. So that's, that's kind of cool.
Out of all construction industries.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I forget.
Go ahead, Chris.
I forget what TJ posted, but TJ McCormick posted something a couple weeks ago at what the statistics were on like last year's roofing industry revenue. I think it was like, I don't know if it was like hundreds or, if it was, 40 or 50 billion or what it was. I don't know. It was 450 billion or what it was, but it was a lot. It was a lot just in North America, I think.
Wow.
So it's definitely huge. There's a lot of potential out there.
Yeah. And we heard last week, Ty and I heard a talk by Lance Bachman, and he has very aggressive plans for the number of roofing companies he wants to acquire over the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, extremely aggressive. And just talked about how what's happening in roofing now, we're kind of almost 10 years behind the HVAC world, but how what happened there is happening here now. You've got institutional money coming in, private equity coming in, and things are definitely, there's just a ton of growth occurring. So and also the talk we heard by Tom Shipley, he talked about when you have a blue ocean opportunity in an industry. And that's really how I looked at our buying group. He described a situation where you don't have very many competitors and there's a massive opportunity. And I'm thinking, man, he's describing what we've done here. And I went and talked to him afterwards, and I said, I really think we have a blue ocean opportunity to come together as an industry. And we talked more, and he said, you sounds like you do. And then I got to ask him some detailed questions about the financial side of raising money and stuff like that. But yeah, I think the interesting thing about roofing is there is a lot of opportunity, but a lot of roofing owners do want to learn and grow. Whereas when I was in healthcare for 2 years with a technology and consulting company, if I came across a physician or the owner of multiple medical clinics or healthcare organizations, man, the ego it was different. Because you're dealing with somebody who is making a lot of money and is also extremely educated, more than most of the population in America. So when you combine the fact, hey, I've been to school for 14 years and I've got a multi-million-dollar business, the level of ego can just be totally different. I'll never forget, we were talking with these guys that own multiple anesthesia centers and anesthesia practices. And, there's a lot of money in anesthesia if you're in the healthcare.
Oh yeah.
And so these guys thought that they were just, like, it's a gift for you to be talking to me right now. Right. But the company I was with, we helped very specific doctors that did infusion therapy for patients with chronic diseases that need to get IV medications. Right. And these guys, and it's a completely different business model. It's like saying I'm a roofer and I'm going to go start an HVAC company just because I'm in the construction space. And these guys were looking at it that way. Like I'm telling them, this is a completely different business model. Like, anesthesia, but these are vastly different business models, patients, drugs, all this stuff. And I ended up kind of telling the guy, like, look, man, I'm happy for what you've done in anesthesia, but you don't know what you're talking about. And you've been successful over there. Now you're trying to come over here. And I told the guy, I said, I'm predicting that a year from now, if you do this without engaging us for consulting, and our consulting was not cheap, and our software was one of the most expensive in the space. I was like, if you do this on your own without engaging us, I think you're going to be calling me 6 months from now and you're going to be 500 grand in debt. I said, if I'm wrong, I will personally fly out to Arizona and I will buy you a steak dinner. And they ended up calling us 2 weeks later saying, how do we sign up?
Good for you. That's one hell of a sales pitch.
Just that ego, man. I'm like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised I even made that phone call, man. Sometimes that ego will prevent you from even making those types of phone calls, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I guess you got to learn how to talk to those kind of people and learn how to play the game. And maybe you just knew how to say the right things at the right time for you to be able to get their attention to open their eyes. Like, hey, maybe we do need help. You know? But no, that's wild, man. And so what, you came from what would you consider the medical field, I guess?
Yes, I was the first outside sales rep. They called it an account executive for, at the time, a startup called We Infuse. And they offered one of the owners actually attended the church I was attending. And we actually sat at the same table at this leadership training thing that the church did and got to know each other a little bit. And then they sent an email out looking for an account executive. And what they had was an all-in-one solution. Like, imagine if you just had one software at your roofing company that did everything versus what most people have, which is multiple, software systems and tools. And it's really hard to get all those things to work together. So these guys came up with a platform, an expensive but very powerful platform that does everything from beginning to end in your healthcare practice. If you're an infusion physician, or if you have an infusion practice. And then we did consulting too, because a lot of physicians were like, well, I see arthritis patients, or I'm a stomach doctor and I'd like to start an infusion practice because it's a very passive kind of thing. You build a space in your healthcare practice, put a bunch of chairs, get an infusion nurse, and you have patients that come every month. It's a very, very good business model. And so we did consulting as well. But I was in that space for 2 years and I got to know a lot of these big buying groups in healthcare. And so they call them GPOs, or group purchasing organizations. So when I got into roofing 3 years ago, I was like, where's all the buying groups in roofing? And everybody's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, this can't be reality. Like, roofers all buy a ton of materials every year. There's got to be like 100 of these things. And it's like crickets. There's the exact opposite. There's none. I mean, there's one big buying group that works with really big contractors, and they're not a competitor of ours because our model's totally different. And then there's Limitless, and that's it.
Wow. Yeah, that is unusual. And then again, it's the growth of the industry and then the people that are being attracted to our industry too. Right. I think there's a, not that we're, us roofers have been doing things the same way for so many years. And I think with all of the new blood and fresh set of eyes that are on the roofing space and coming into our space right now, and we talk about this all the time, like the Tim Browns and the marketing techniques and the Joseph Hugheses, with the social media marketing that he trains people on how to basically do that yourself. I mean, that wasn't happening again 5 years ago, guys like you coming from the medical field, getting into the roofing space. It's catching the attention of a lot of, different people that you wouldn't even think would even considering themselves a roofing contractor. Right. So Dylan, are you just do the Limitless? When you said that you were introduced or came into the roofing industry 3 years ago, did you own a roofing company or did you start Limitless 3 years ago?
Yeah, so we started Limitless 3 years ago, but I came into the industry. So I left the healthcare world. I'd been studying real estate and multifamily investing and kind of moonlighting in that space for about a year, and came across somebody who had been in multifamily. She had owned like 3,500 units and managed up to about 10,000. And I'd heard some things about this person. I thought, wow, this is somebody I'd like to get to know. Maybe we could work together. Long story short, I ended up leaving the healthcare software company, consulting company, and getting into business with this person that I learned a huge lesson out of all this. Vet people before you jump ship to go on a journey with them. I didn't do enough vetting, and I was so focused on the financial outcome. And we all know that leadership really boils down to character, to the kind of person you are, not the skills you have, because those skills will never outpace your character. And you can be really skilled and, become addicted to drugs or cheat on your spouse. And next thing you know, your leadership just got torpedoed because of a character issue, right? So this person ended up, I started seeing yellow flags and then red flags. And then I started to get really concerned. And then I started looking for plan B. So I was with her for 4 months and then started talking to my buddy Miller, who's one of the owners of Limitless. And I'd seen him from afar. His wife and my wife were good friends. And he would take off like almost all of December and go hunting and living a comfortable lifestyle and all this stuff. And I'm just like, man, Miller's got it pretty good, and he owns a roofing company. He's been in roofing for like 20 years. And so I reached out to Miller. I was like, hey, man, no pressure, because your wife and my wife are good friends and I don't want to mess that up at all. But like, what would it look like to work together, And so he took me on a ride and he was like, look, man, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about roofing. I'll let you sell for me. I'll teach you the whole business in and out. And in a year or two, if you want to go start your own company, go for it. Like, I've been in this for 20 years. I'm happy where I'm at. I don't want to grow anymore, really. And I was like, wow, man, what a guy, and we became better friends. And then I'm real entrepreneurial and full of ideas. He has to kind of bring me back down to earth sometimes. But I was like, man, like, when I was in healthcare, they had these buying groups. And then another thing, they had a CEO group. So let's start this thing. Let's start this company. And we called it Limitless eventually. We had several names at first. It's another issue I have is constantly coming up with ideas, even changing the name of things multiple times. And so we started the CEO group thing, and then we started the buying group.
Nice.
That's really cool, man. That's really cool. It's awesome. All the different things that I've seen come to this industry, man. Like Ty, like you were saying, all the different niches. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't have to just be a rugged person that throws your ToolBelt on every day in order to join this industry, man. There's so many different avenues, and I remember we kind of focused on this, I don't know, maybe like a year and a half ago, where we like the eyes really open. And it's like, we've been looking wrong. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different opportunities to work at our company. Mm-hmm. You don't have to just be good with a hammer. You know what I mean? There's so many different avenues and fields within our field.
For sure.
To successfully run a
And
business.
that's a great point too, because everyone thinks, oh, yeah, it's a roofing company, but there's much more going on at a roofing company. There's accounts payable, receivables, there's costing, there's financing, there's drafting, AutoCAD, PlanSwift, there's sales, there's project managers, there's guttermen. I mean, yes. And of course there's roofing, there's window installers and siding installers and now ugly roof and solar. Right. But like we've talked about, we've tried to make it a career, not just like a stepping stone into a different job. You know what I mean? Just another job. We didn't want that to be another job. And now a lot of companies like us are offering health insurance, 401k, things like that, Roth IRAs, to make it a career where people can come in and make a good, healthy, um, salary to be able to, to take care of their family. Right. And that's one of the missions. And I think there's a lot of people out there right now, especially those guys that are members of the Revolt group, right? Like that's what they want. That's their dream, is to have impact on people, not just their family, but their coworkers, their community, their industry, their manufacturing, and their distribution, right? Because that's what it's about. Even our subcontractors, right? We have an impact on all of these people on whatever skill you want to take that to. And it doesn't matter if it's the truck driver delivering the shingles, right? We need to treat them with respect and integrity, and because they're helping facilitate getting our products to the job site, right? Like, so we need to recognize those people and encourage, embrace them, and take a minute and talk to them and treat them like they're people, because let's face it, we're all in this industry together. And I think for the most part, a lot of us are trying to make it a better place than it was when we found it. At least I know that's been our mission, for quite some time now. And it's just really in a cool place, man. I can't even put it into words, I guess. I'm happy to be able to experience where the roofing industry is now and where it's heading, because of leadership and the cool people that are joining our industry, the new people, the guys over at Lead Scout, right? Like, they're really smart people, and they're going to make our industry better. Did they necessarily come from the roofing industry? No, but it's because of them we're able to improve our businesses, which in turn improves the lives of those that work here, right? And it's just not waiting for the phone to ring or knocking doors, putting a roof on. It's like, this is an actual career.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure.
So that's my 2 cents on how I feel the industry is just kicking ass, and
it really is, man. It really is,
and taking names right now. So I love where it's at, and I love that there's mastermind groups now for the roofing industry. And thank God, because just because we've been in, guys like myself that have been in business for a while, I think a lot of times what happens is that we get caught up in that, we know it all, right? And this is the bottom line: we don't. Let me fill you in on that little secret. We don't. And I would say back in December, a friend of mine, who's now a friend of mine, I met a guy named John DeVille at a Revolt retreat in Utah. And he asked me, came up to me, it was his first retreat, and he asked me, he's like, why do you still come to these things? And I said to him, about the fellowship and the camaraderie, and this is the time for me to take the cotton out of my mouth, or take it out of my ears and stick it in my mouth. And so I can listen and learn, because there's a lot going on. And I said to him, I said, just give it some time, and you'll see why I keep coming back to this. And about an hour later, he came back. He was like, I see why you keep coming back to this thing. And it's like, that's why. And I'm not saying that I felt like at first that I was better than anybody else in that room. I think my lack of confidence, my low self-esteem won't allow me to feel that way, because when I walk into a room of my peers, I look at them as my peers. It doesn't matter how much revenue that we've done over the years or anything like that. It's like, I can learn something from a guy that's been in business for 6 months, or a guy that's been in business for 60 years. Like, there's always something that you can learn. And that's probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned over the years is to keep an open mind and remain teachable. And one of our slogans that we like to use too, and that I live by today, and I mentioned it last night in my 2-minute live, is that, we're just getting started. We're just getting started. I need to keep that mentality of, that new kid on the block. We're just getting started, and I don't want to get complacent. I don't want to get too comfortable. I need to remain humble. That's probably the biggest thing, but I struggle with that too. And Deshaun Bryant was on the show a couple years ago, and he said something that stuck with me. It's like, are you being humble, or are you hiding?
Right.
So there's like that fine line of, am I being humble right now, or am I just hiding? But I think for the most part, we try to just remain humble. and try to keep an open mind and continue to keep learning.
Yeah, Dylan, what's your goal for this year?
Our goal for this year is to land somewhere around 250 members by the end of the year.
Gotcha. What are you at now?
45 as of today, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So between our partnership with roofing.com and some strategy we've got with SRS distribution, I think between those two things and then our own efforts, we've got a Facebook group with 28,000 members that we've just started posting about Limitless Roofing Group 2 weeks ago. So we've got kind of 3 major areas there between roofing.com, SRS, and our big Facebook group. So we'll see, man. I hope we can get up to 1,000 members in the next 2 to 3 years.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, that
That'd
would be
really cool.
amazing.
Hell yeah.
That would definitely be.
And then we can go to and we already have a deal with a national health insurance broker, but it's not a great deal. It is a group rate for solid healthcare insurance, PPO, solid, like what you would get at a really big company. But you have to have at least 5 employees enrolled that are W-2 employees so it weeds a ton of roofing companies out. But when we get to like 1,000 members strong, then it's a totally different conversation. We can go to, people, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, United, whatever, and say, hey, there's 1,000 of us. Let's reduce the requirements and let's work something out. Right now, we just don't have that kind of leverage, but we'll get there.
That's thinking outside the box, man. I didn't even think of something like that.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
How that could change.
Yeah, and I think a lot of roofing contractors are leaning more towards W-2s opposed to 1099s.
Yeah,
I think that's becoming more of a reality. I know we went all W-2s, even our sales team, and I think Cornerstone, Hunter and those guys, and Walker, they all went W-2 with their sales team too. So I mean, a lot more companies are doing it. It's becoming more of a trend. So as that hopefully gains traction, that will help launch your new endeavor with the health insurance plan. So that's cool. Like he said, that's definitely thinking outside the box. If you're ever looking for an investor, you let me know.
Will do. We've been approached several times.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
But whether you join us or Revolt or roofing.com, it's just like, it just boggles my mind that people aren't doing something like that, because we're so much stronger together. Like my mentor when I was in Bible college told me something one time. He said, you need to read as many books as you can and learn and grow and be a constant learner, because we all stand on the shoulders of others. He said, that's what's going to separate you from everyone else. We all stand on the shoulders of others. And I thought, man, that's so powerful. And then I heard a quote last week that said, there's no self-made men. It's like, it's so true, man. Like, did you have parents? Okay. Well, whoever took care of you, whether it was parents or caregivers or whatever. And then did you have friends? Did you have a teacher that stuck out? Did you have a business person that you thought, wow, I admire what they're doing. I want to be like that. I want to be there. There's nothing new under the sun. So you've had all these things, whether you recognize them and want to point them out or not. We've all had all these things that have helped us get to where we are. And so my whole thing is like, I don't want just a little bit of juice. Like, give me everything I can get. Give me all the power and resources and help and support that I need to work on myself and work on my business. But I think I try to challenge people with that, is like, whether you join us or not, like, join somebody. You're so much better off when you have a community. It's like that. I don't know if it's an African proverb or what it is, but if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Oh yeah,
just that whole type of thing.
No, we love that, because we talk about this quite often, that today's currency is our partnerships and networking, right? Like, that's today's currency. And we talk about those. And I love that saying that, there is no self-made man, because, we intentionally, there's one guy in particular that we've done work for quite some time. And I give him a shout out all the time. His name's Eric Brewer. We wouldn't be who or where we are today if it wasn't for him. And I've never forgotten that. We still do work for him today, right? He buys, sells, holds, flips houses. And, Christmas, birthdays and stuff like that, I tend to get him something, or I shoot him a text message of just thank you. Right. And he's
cool.
like, what the hell are you about? What? It's like, because I'm grateful for you, bro. So I just want you to know that, I don't forget where I come from, Bum. And, and I think that's a lot. I think people get blinded. It's about like, I built this. It was me. I did this. But it's like, who helped you along the way? Like, was there a business, a company, a coach, a mentor, somebody that planted that seed, or somebody that gave you that referral, or somebody that loaned you their dump trailer that day, or whatever the case might be, that opened up that door to open up many more doors. The network of people that we do business with, that have become our actual partners, right? Like, whether it be a trade partner or a partner in general, we wouldn't be where we are or be as strong of a company or human being without the network of people, right? And I hate to sound cliche, but there's another saying too. It's like, your net worth is what is it? Your network is your shit.
Your network is your net worth.
Yeah, is your net worth, right? Like, that's, I mean, it's true. I mean, it's so true. And I mean, if you're humble enough to see that, right, to realize that we wouldn't be where we're at if it wasn't for our network.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been inspired or encouraged or instructed by one comment or one sentence out of one book or one reel on like, you took that from somebody else and it helped you. We've been inundated with billions of helpful things over our lifetime. So it's like, I'm with you, man. Show some humility.
Yeah.
I mean, I wake up every day. I heard a talk one time. I went to, a lot of people don't know this, but I went to get a master's degree at Dallas Seminary. Not to get into the spiritual realm, but I'm the last person that would be going to seminary. So it's a pretty wild story of how I got into that. But after that happened, and I had found my relationship with God, went to Bible college and then seminary. Every day you were in class, you had to go to chapel. And so 2 or 3 days a week, you're going to chapel. And some of these speakers are the best, in the Christian realm, some of the greatest, like Chuck Swindoll and these guys that are just so gifted at speaking and preaching or whatever, where you just mesmerize their stories, their analogies, all of it. It's just awesome. They never let students speak at chapel except one. They had this guy named Chris Skinner, who's in an electric wheelchair, come and speak one day. And I remember it like it was yesterday. He was just raising hell in college, driving drunk one night, coming home from a party, wrapped his car around a tree on the way home, flew out the windshield, broke his back. And he was up there and he said, you better thank God every day you can wiggle your fingers and toes. And I was just like, whoa. And then he shared a passage where Jesus says, I'm the vine, you're the branches. Aside from me, you can do nothing. And he said, you need to get to the place where you realize you really are completely vulnerable. Like, you may not be aware of it, but the level of your vulnerability as a human is so high, whether it's a stroke, a heart attack, a car wreck. Like, every day is a gift. And man, that was in 2009. And almost every morning when I wake up now, I go, thank you, God, I can wiggle my fingers and toes. And I don't want to complain about anything.
Mm. Yeah, man, that's good. That's good. That is good.
And I happen to have a class with him too. And he's in this huge electric wheelchair that could like tilt and go up and down and do all this stuff. And his hands were always kind of frozen in this kind of half clenched position. So one day he's like, hey man, can you give me a drink out of my he had this big 40-ounce like cup thing with a big straw on it. And it was awkward. Like I didn't know what to do. I'd never had a friend with these kinds of limitations and stuff. And so we became friends and I gave him this thing. And I remember talking to him, I like to be real. I like people that you can get to know easily and stuff. And he was this kind of guy. And I said, man, what's it like going from where you were in college to where you are now? And he goes, it sucks, man. He's like, it really sucks. He's like, but let me tell you something awesome. And he started telling a story about how he met his wife. And she was actually the physical therapist that taught him how to be mobile after the accident. They ended up getting married. And he's like, what does that say about her? Like, she truly married me for who I am, not what I could do. And just a really powerful story. But just going back to the leadership and the humility thing, like that always stuck out to me.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. I mean, that's an attitude of gratitude and don't take it for granted, right?
We take a lot of things for granted that you wouldn't even think about taking for granted. You know what I mean? And my eyes have definitely been open to that a lot more since the pandemic on things that, and that's not even remotely close to the type of scale that we're talking about right now. You know what I mean? On just how bad things can be and like how bad we think we have it sometimes. It's like, poor me, you know what I mean? I have this little minor inconvenience. I got to do this, or I got to get up and do this shitty thing at work today, or like I have to, you know, take my kids to 3 different directions all within an hour. You know what I mean? Just like stupid things that we are like, oh, poor me. And it's like, we're blessed to have those kinds of things. You know what I mean? Like it could be so much worse.
Yeah.
So much worse.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, those are things you don't have to do. You get to do, right?
That's right. That's right. And it goes that, you know, yes. And that could definitely open up a whole nother conversation of, you know, gratitude is an action word too. You know what I mean? And that's what it comes down to, is just remaining grateful that we get to put our feet on the floor every single morning. And I got myself into a habit a while ago when we were traveling. I was experiencing, I don't even want to call it anxiety, but a good bit of anxiousness, right? Just from being away from work so much. We were traveling a lot, and I was just kind of like, I'd wake up in the morning with like this impending doom feeling because of like just being out of place, out of my comfort zone, continuously pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. I started to create like this anxiousness where I'd just wake up, but I got into a habit of thanking God at the minute my eyes would open up, like, thank you for this opportunity that I get to do this. And I think sometimes we tend to get in that funk or you know, situational depression, I think sometimes. And it's like, you know, we're blessed for the stress. Jana told me that one time, and I thought, man, that's the stupidest thing I think I've ever heard in my life. Right? Like, I'm like, that is like really dumb. Like, I'm not blessed for the stress. Like, that just doesn't even sound,
make sense.
No, but then I got to digest it. Like 5 minutes later, I called her back and I'm like, you know what? You're right. You know, we're blessed for the stress. And it's like, I've heard a lot of people say this a lot lately, is like, you know, like today, my life is what I prayed for a year ago. Like 5 years ago, I was praying to have my life like it is today. And now all I want to do is sit around and bitch about how busy I am, or I got to drag the kids around. Dude, I went without a driver's license for 15 years. 15 years.
Sucks.
Right? Like 10 years, lost them for 9 years, 8 months. And then got them back, and I ended up losing them again for just a little bit over 4 years, right? Like, all I wanted to do was just drive legally. You know, that's all I wanted to do. And I thought, God, if I could do that, man, I'd hit the ground running. But, you know, it's like all of these things that we take for granted today, that you have a car,
right,
that you can turn on and you got gas in the tank, right? And you have enough seats for your kids, and the heat works, the air conditioner works, and that you're available for them to take them any place that they need to go, right? Like, and that's a blessing. I had a great conversation with a guy today, and he works with his son, and working for family is not always the easiest thing. And I guess they had differences of opinion. And, you know, before we got off the phone, I almost said his name. I was like, hey man, you're blessed. Like, how, like, think about that for a minute. Like, how blessed are you that you have the opportunity to work with your family, right? Right, wrong, or indifferent. Our job is to encourage our kids, right? Whether if they're a screw up or not, right? And I'm guilty of being really hard, right, on my kids. And it opened my eyes. Like, I needed to hear myself say that. Like, how blessed are you to have this opportunity to work with your children and help develop them. You know what I mean? And to figure out, you know, and it's a learning experience for him too, because he's struggling with, like, I just don't understand. I was like, but listen, what are their strengths? And what are their weaknesses? Like, are we continuously setting them up for failure? You know what I mean? So just because they don't have the work ethic or think the way that I think doesn't mean they don't do a good job. Right. Like, so we need to encourage what it is that they're good at and help them find out what it is that they are good at, and maybe push a little bit to help them step outside that comfort zone. But what a blessing to be able to have that learning experience with them.
Right. You put them in the right seat in the bus, and you inspire them that's when you really get the tenfold return.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? You put someone in a seat that they're not inspired by, and they don't feel like they're contributing, and you're not hearing them.
Mhm.
You're not even going to get 100% out of them.
No,
You know, but you inspire somebody and put them in that correct seat, man, you're going to get over 100% back.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, but anyhow, we, an hour and 4 minutes here into
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
What a great conversation, Dylan. I mean, you're a rock star, bro. You got good, awesome things happening for you.
Yeah.
Great partnerships, relationships that you're building and developing. And we look forward to watching this, unfold for you. And hopefully if there's anything that we could do to help inspire or embrace or encourage what you're doing, by all means, reach out to us and hopefully we get to see each other some more. Opposed to once a year or twice a year. Let's stay in touch, man. I love what you're doing. I know Chris does too. And
Yeah, for sure, man.
we love what you're doing, man. Way to think outside the box, bro.
Absolutely, guys. Yeah, thanks for having me on. And if you do come to Dallas, shoot me a text or message, man. Let's grab some lunch
Heck yeah.
You a
or
Cowboys
dinner.
fan, bro?
Better yet, let's grab some good dinner.
You a
Yes.
Cowboys fan?
Man, I grew up in Houston, so I really don't have like this intense like allegiance to Dallas. I just don't.
Gotcha. All right. You were cool.
At least you're honest.
Yeah, I like the honesty.
Yeah.
Now, make sure, viewers, make sure you guys hop over to our YouTube page, like and subscribe to that, please. Behind the Tool Belt on YouTube. And thank you guys for religiously tuning in every week. Make sure if you guys have not done so, hit the like button, hit the share button. It only takes 2 seconds. And we'll see you guys next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time for episode 176. Everyone have a good rest of your week.
Boom.